you may remember last year Plan B passed in LA. If you're not familiar with it, that's the measure that made it so that you had to use condoms in pornography. And we predicted, and many people predicted at the time, that this might drive pornography out of LA, where it's traditionally been very popular to film. And so it's been 6 months or so, give or take. Let's find out if our predictions were accurate. So we have some stats about the number of requests for pornographic movie shoots. Now, in a typical year, you would expect at this point for there to be over about 500 or so. So far in 2013, 2. Oops. Only 2. So it seems like we might have been right. All it took was a little bit of, I guess, plastic, rubber, whatever they're made out of, latex, and it drove the entire business out, possibly to Vegas or something.
Yeah, we don't know where they're gone. I'm busy trying to locate them. Okay. But, I mean, look, apparently the demand was for non-condom videos in porn.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
Right? And so when California said you have to use a condom, well, apparently they were like, no, we don't. We have to leave the state. And, it's interesting because, liberals are accused of wanting to be big government, always in favor of regulation, et cetera. And, I maintain on this show all the time, not because I'm against liberals. I always say, like, I'm not, in a lot of ways.
Some of my best friends are liberal.
Right. No, in some ways, I'm not good enough to be a liberal. I'm not that kind. I'm not that giving in a lot of ways, right? But this is a little different situation. Like, I've always thought, well, would I want too much, a lot of regulation or a little regulation? Well, it depends. Yeah. It depends on what the situation is. And in this case, I thought this was over-regulation. And then, like,
you did think it was overregulation?
I did. And so, like, for the rich will complain, like, if you raise my taxes by, like, 0.75%, we're all going to leave California, we're all going to move to Oregon. Yeah. My ass you are. You're in Silicon Valley, you're not going anywhere, okay? Yeah. Now, look, there's bounds of reason. If you increase it tremendously, yes, at that point, you change the equation, right? But no, like, for example, there was a significant bump up in taxes on the rich in California that just got passed into law. They haven't gone anywhere. Okay, I mean they're always threatening and bluffing. Oh, we're going to go. We're going to Dubai. We'll go to Somalia. We'll go to Somalia.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but in this case, making porn is fairly easy.
You don't need huge
But wait a minute. The real statistic should be how many people are having safer sex now. Has it actually influenced the people who watch this?
In those 2 movies. Okay.
I don't watch porn. I'm not able to say, but I think the question of the law is like whether it was going to be an effective way to encourage people to have safer sex.
I think our point at that time was that it was not going to be effective, hence we were wasting our time with it, because all it was going to do was drive the business to another state where they would still have condomless sex, and you weren't going to accomplish your objective anyway.
And those 2 videos, by the way, not very sexy.
No. Oh, you've checked them out already?
Both of them?
I didn't feel nothing the whole time.
Sort of interesting, because you also directed and starred in them. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's how I found out about the story. But interesting note, just for the future. So this was an LA measure, and people fled out of LA to do these in other parts of California. But right now, Assembly Bill 332 is being considered, which would make this same law across all of California.
I think it's great. I think it should be across the country, if not.
So tell me why.
Because look, if it's sort of similar to the soda ban and things like this.
See, that's where I'm not a liberal then. After
I don't think it has anything to do with being a liberal.
You're a big government regulator.
I am a big government regulator, but I'm also an emotional eater, so I'm happy for anyone to put any limits on what I'm going to stuff in my face. But I would say that, look, if it helps people be safer in terms of what they do, if they look up to porn stars or they see these men as alpha males and the women too, if they look at it as a healthy part of sex and a hot, sensual part of sex to use condoms, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, Katie, I was the one that was on the other side of this. They haven't brought that up yet. I was expecting them to. I was the one who said this is a good measure when it happened, and they said it's going to run the porn business out of LA.
Who cares?
And I was like, who gives a shit? Because except for you in the porn business, maybe you work and you live here and you want to make sure you're close. You have a short commute. But the bottom line being, okay, I mean, it's not, and I don't even think it's a point of looking up to porn stars. This is actually, the soda ban was okay, we're going to pay more because more people are fat and obese in healthcare industry. But the problem here is, this is actually spreading disease. So you have sex with someone, more disease is spread when there's less condom usage. get out of the state. I mean, get out of the city then. Let's have less diseases floating around amongst the citizens.
AIDS is rising among gays in major metropolitan cities. I mean, it's a real issue, and I don't mean just for gay people that it's a major issue. But what I was saying is that even with all the education we had for a long time, that went out of fashion because people didn't think we needed it anymore. I don't understand why we need to, like, rally behind, like, an industry that debases women, and I can't imagine that it's, like, a positive experience for most of the people who work in it.
Freedom, baby. Okay, so look, I disagree with you. I understand how you perceive it as debasing women in some instances. I get that.
In some instances?
I mean, there's
how many dicks in your
porn
face
isn't
does it
debasing
take?
women. It's just there's just a story. Turns out that it was that they were neighbors.
And I'm very pro erotica. I want to put that out there that I'm pro erotica, and I would, if all of these things worked the way that it does in the Netherlands, that people got health care and they were treated fairly and all of those things, I would probably be pro porn too in that circumstance.
So what I was going to end on is, look, if this is a situation where if the law was nationwide, it would actually be more debatable, right? So then you can get into your arguments about freedom, and I'd be a little bit split on that, but at least it would be effective, right? Because they're still going to do porn in the U.S. I mean, they're not all going to flee to Tijuana and Alberta to do porn, right?
It's cold in Alberta.
Yeah. So if it was nationwide, at least it would have a much better chance of being effective.
I agree.
But when you limit it to one city, there's almost no way it was going to be effective. And that's why I thought, well, it's a waste of time, even no matter which side you're on. I mean, except the only point that still has validity is JR's, I don't want them around me. He's saying, like, they're more likely to pick up diseases, and hence somehow it comes back to me.
One city at a time.
Resist temptation, stop sleeping with porn stars, and you should be fine.
Yeah.